Why is a Holocaust survivor being forced to pay an anti-Semitic hate group? What happens when Jews commit hate crimes against other Jews? Why did Australia change the way it refers to parts of Israel? And did Giuliani really say this about Jewish men's? Okay, we're covering all that and more on Today Unpacked, your weekly deep dive into Jewish news. So let's unpack it. Have you heard the saying, you can't unring a bell? How about you can't unscramble an egg? Well, in Tel Aviv this week, that might not be true. 3 weeks ago, an Israeli man made headlines after egging a tefillin stand in Tel Aviv, soaking the straps in the process. The stand was set up by two young Chabad men in order to encourage people to don tefillin. Deputy Minister Yaakov Tessler wrote, "I'm shocked and shaken by the severe public harm against the holy tefillin that were attacked. There is no reason that justifies such barbaric actions and lack of values." But that's not where the saga ends. If it was, I wouldn't be telling you about it. The story took an unexpected turn when the perpetrator, Elad Levy, revisited the scene 3 weeks later. This time, remorse replaced aggression. Elad's sincere apology was graciously accepted by the yeshiva students manning the booth, who not only forgave him, but also invited him to partake in this spiritual act. Elad has since committed himself to putting on tefillin every morning. Local responses have been varied. Some see Levy's change of heart as a public relations move, while others believe it's genuine. But the overarching message is clear. Even in Israel's polarized climate, there's room for redemption, reconciliation, and reconnection with age-old traditions. So I guess sometimes you can unring the bell. That is the entire concept of repentance in Judaism. That is what it's all about. For this next piece, let's check in with our local correspondent and producer, Ellie Stamen.
Thanks, Noam. Every week I stress out about our next segment, is it anti-Semitic? Will we have material? Is there anything newsworthy? Did anybody say anything to report? And every week I'm relieved to find that there is no lack of anti-Semitism in the world to talk about. So today, let's look at an audio transcript from our favorite former New York mayor and try to figure out, is it anti-Semitic? You might remember Rudy Giuliani as once attorney for Donald Trump, or as a vocal temporary hair dye advocate. But after today, you might remember him for something bigger. Giuliani was sued earlier this year by Noelle Dunphy, who claimed Giuliani sexually assaulted her and frequently made racist and anti-Semitic remarks. Her account describes a pattern of alcohol-drenched rants. One such rant, and I'm not sure how or why this came about, describes Jewish men as having small and unused genitalia due to natural selection. According to Giuliani's logic, and this is allegedly a quote, Jewish men can't use it after they get married, whereas the Italians use it all their lives so it gets bigger. And as if that wasn't enough, he is also alleged to have thrown the Jewish celebration of Passover under the bus, saying, "Get over the Passover, it was like 3,000 years ago. The Red Sea parted, big deal." So is this anti-Semitic? First things first, the notion that Jewish men don't use that particular part of themselves after marriage is just stupid and frankly absurd. See how many kids Jewish families have? The Torah also puts a huge emphasis on maintaining a healthy sex life within a marriage, with laws expressly stating that a man is obligated to fulfill his wife's needs. So yeah, he's just flat out wrong. But does that make him anti-Semitic? I'm not sure. But in terms of Passover, he pushed it too far. Our exodus from Egypt was definitive in our establishment as a people, and we have no plans of getting over it now or any time in the future. It's our story, and our telling of our stories year after year is what kept us a people. So what was Rudy's defense? Giuliani's spokesperson was swift to defend him, citing his past achievements from battling organized crime and cleaning up New York to uplifting America's spirits during its darkest days post 9/11. It's not really an excuse, but okay, you do you. Anyway, I want to pass the question off to you. Do you think Giuliani will be remembered fondly as America's mayor or as a hate-spewing narcissist? Let us know in the comments down below. Back to you, Noam.
Okay, well, next up, a heartwarming tale of two Holocaust survivors fight against a group of anti-Semites and how justice was served. Nope. Unfortunately, that's not how the story goes. This is the story of how two Holocaust survivors are now liable for paying the $159,000 legal bill of a group of anti-Semites.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
The group Witness for Peace has been picketing the Beth Israel congregation in Ann Arbor, Michigan for nearly 2 decades, interrupting services and displaying signs each week on Saturday morning as congregants arrive for Shabbat services, including messages such as "Resist Jewish Power," "Israel Attacked America 9/11-2001," and "End Jewish Supremacism in Palestine." Fed up with the weekly demonstrations, Holocaust survivors Miriam Brisk and Marvin Gerber took a stand and sought an injunction against the picketers. The Supreme Court refused to hear the case, and in a surprising twist, the district court sided with the Holocaust-denying protesters and are forcing the plaintiffs to pay up. Now, Mark Susselman, the Holocaust survivors' legal representative, is knocking on the Supreme Court's doors again to challenge the fees. The question at hand, says Susselman, is whether the survivor's original lawsuit was frivolous. Clearly, it was not. It was complex. On one hand, there's the First Amendment's freedom of speech guarantee. On the other, there's the deep trauma and disturbance these protests cause the congregants. Susselman claims it was anti-Semitic bias on behalf of the district court judge who ordered the fee and is hoping for a revision. Eyes are on the Supreme Court now as they evaluate this contentious case in September. But I want to know where you stand with this issue. Was this a frivolous lawsuit against free speech or a violation of religious freedom? Let us know in the comments down below. Fascinated to hear what you think. And finally, we're heading down under, where a linguistic shift is causing ripples in diplomatic circles. Australia's decision to revert to the terminology occupied Palestinian territories when referencing the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and Gaza has stirred international discussions. The heart of this decision lies in aligning with international standards as articulated by Foreign Minister Penny Wong. But the change is more than just language, it's reflective of a shift in geopolitics. Historically, these territories' nomenclature has been really sensitive, revealing underlying political, cultural, and territorial disputes. But the phrasing occupied territory has a much more dangerous implication that could undermine Jewish territorial claims. Wong's counter-arguments emphasize historical and international consistency, suggesting that the terminology isn't meant to favor one party over the other, but to ensure clarity in diplomatic dialogue. Wong also reassured everyone of Australia's continued friendship with Israel, reflecting the nation's intricate balance between international politics and national interests. Oh, well, I guess we're all good then, right? Not so fast. The international standards that Wong is referring to are largely influenced by the UN, an organization that has time and time again proven to be at odds with the state of Israel and consistently held to an unfair set of standards. But using the term occupied has a certain connotation. The Nazis occupied France. Does that mean that there aren't complications there? Of course there are. But the term occupied, like I said before, is very fraught with many different challenges and implications. People refer to Israel as occupied in three different ways. Number one is they're saying the entire land of Israel is occupied. What that means is that the Jewish state should not really exist. The other way people refer to the word occupied is saying that the land captured in 1967 is occupied by Israel. Then the third approach is to say the land in the West Bank is not occupied because it's historically, biblically, ancestrally Jewish land. However, the people, the Palestinians who are living in the West Bank, are occupied by a foreign military, referring to Israel. This is why it's so complicated. But when you use the term occupied, what you're doing is you are saying that this is the problem of Israel, that the terrorism that exists is because of the travesty that Israel has caused to the Palestinians. What I'm asking is to be a bit more nuanced than this. It is disputed, it is complicated, it is difficult, and so to use the term the occupied West Bank as opposed to the West Bank makes it very, very difficult for Israel and the Palestinians to ultimately make peace with each other. And that wraps up another week of Today Unpacked. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to stay up to date on all your Jewish current events of the week. Let's rise above the noise. Thanks for unpacking with us.